This is Logical Logistics, where we cover shipping, supply chain, logistics, and everything in between. Welcome to the show. All right, welcome. Today with me, I have Azmi Kiswani from Kiswani Freight, and he is located in the Chicagoland area, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you give me a little background on your company?
We actually the name we have subsidiary companies. We have our Kiswani Trucking Park, which handles the modal containers. We have our Kiswani National Park, which handles the domestic containers and the OTR part of the company. Kiswani Freight handles the brokerage side, and Kiswani Repair is our repair facility that we own. We're a 90 truck company. We have two terminals, one in South Holland and one in Elwood, Illinois.
All right. No, that's both. Yeah, I have to interrupt you, but for the people out there, that's the south suburbs of Chicago, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Go on.
And we have a 20-acre terminal in South Holland, Illinois. We have on-site fueling. We have our own repair shop. We own our own chassis and our equipment. We move about 1,200 containers a week in the Chicagoland area. We have, we've been in business since '04. It's a family-owned business.
Okay.
We employ about 120 people. That's including office personnel, shop personnel, truck drivers, and people that work on site on the terminals. Guards. We have night guards, 24-hour shifts of guards. It's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting year.
All right. We'll get back to that. One thing I want to ask you, though, is how did you get into the business? Was it always a family
I'm
business?
second generation. I'm vice president of all these companies.
Okay.
And second generation.
And I am a question.
Second generation owner.
Is this something?
My father is the one that. Yeah.
Is this something you always wanted to do, or is it something you just eventually got into? Did you?
No.
Right.
Most people, I think I speak for a lot of people. Most people find themselves in logistics. It wasn't, they were intending to go into logistics. I guess life leads them into it. For me, no. I mean, my background, I graduated from Loyola University, Chicago, with a BA in history and political science, and went on to law school. And for me, after I finished law school, I personally didn't want to continue as a lawyer, or be a lawyer, to be honest with you. So I decided to join the company firm and grow the company, and we did. We grew substantially. And for me, the company is it's a growing field. Logistics is it's the backbone of the economy.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially people that aren't in logistics. So it's a very diverse field, and it's a field that employs a lot of people, and it keeps the world going, especially domestically and internationally. But yeah, it's a field that honestly, no, I didn't, initially wanted to go in logistics, but life leads you to it.
Yeah.
I don't regret it either. I enjoy what I do. I really do. I love what I do, and it's good.
Do you find that your legal background has helped you in any way?
Of course.
Right.
Owning multiple companies, my legal background does help me. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of legal documents day in and day out. We do a lot of contract freight. We have a lot of contracts with a lot of customers. We have about 600 customers. I'd say 97% of them are very small customers, very seasonal customers too.
Okay.
So when we renegotiate our terms with our customers, my legal background does help me, move forward and do what I have to do, to make sure that, we're signing the right paperwork. But yeah, I mean, it is helpful. I can't say it wouldn't be. I mean, it's an asset that I have, personally.
Right.
Having that legal background.
Now, with your contracts, what kind of terms do you shoot for? I don't want to ask for your exact terms, but as far as length of contract.
Well, most contracts are renewed on a yearly basis.
Okay.
You know, people, like, again, what people don't, logistics, it runs cycles within years. You know, there's people that do most of their shipping during a certain season of the year. And a lot of people, you know, in those contracts are renewed because, you know, the market changes. The supply and demand changes year in, year out. You know, fuel surcharge, I'm sure you realized, with fuel prices being down, your fuel surcharge changes, you know, and being supplied. I mean, with the way the market is, I mean, one year you could have a little bit of an upper hand where rates can increase and you can ask your customer for an increase. And some years, you know, the customer's still going to say, you know, but I need a decrease, and it's just the supply and demand, and that's the way life is. This is logistics,
right?
You know, but in general, I mean, I have my first customer since we started in '04.
All right.
So it speaks volumes, and for us, we're a growing company. But yeah, I mean, terms are usually renewed yearly.
Okay.
And I think that's the case for everybody in logistics. I think usually, you know,
yeah.
People renew on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Now, is there a certain niche you guys fit, or
we do?
Okay.
Yeah, our niche is intermodal containers. Chicago is the hub is a focal point of the overseas intermodal containers because it's the switch off. It's the stuff that goes from the east needs to switch off and go to the west. Stuff from the west switches off and goes east, and so on and so forth. And Chicago's a big market. You know, there's a lot of manufacturing. There's a lot of warehousing in the Midwest, and Chicago's the focal point of that. So everything enters and leaves that market. It's a bigger export market than import, I'd say, but
okay.
You know, at least on our end.
Yeah.
But that's our niche. We do a lot of intermodal containers.
All right. So are you picking up from the port on the south side there, or
no? We pick up from the rails. There's
right.
There's one small port on the south side, but I mean I wouldn't consider that a port. But we pick up on all the rails. There's like 5 predominant rails in Chicago: CSX, NS, BNSF, UP, the CP, and we pick up out of there. I mean, it's a railroad city. It's not a port. It's not you know, Savannah or Jacksonville or Charleston or those cities where you're going to a port. There's no ports. It's a railroad city.
Right.
Where there's rails. It's all via train, not vessel.
Yeah, I just for those of you not from the Chicago area, I drive by the Port of Chicago down by Lake Calumet. Now that's one of the things I thought of.
We pick up out of there.
Okay.
We have a couple of customers that are located inside of that port, but it's not, you know, a port where you can compare to like Norfolk or LA or Long Beach or something like that.
Right. Right. So, what are the challenges that you face on a daily basis?
Well, I'd say for us, having that niche, it's different than the rest of the trucking industry. Why? Because first, there claims to be a driver shortage in the industry, and there might be for a lot of companies.
Okay.
But for us, we don't have that issue because our dynamics are different. Our drivers come home every day. Most of our work is within a 200-mile radius. I'd say maybe maximum 300 miles. Drivers are home every day. They're off on the weekends.
Wow.
Pay is good. So our dynamics are different than the rest of the industry, so we don't feel the woes as much as the industry because the niche that we supply.
Yeah.
And the driver shortage issue is not affecting us as much. I know it's affecting much of the bigger carriers who are averaging 100% turnover rates, as I'm reading, in a lot of news and in the logistics world. The driver shortage hasn't affected us because of niche that we have in the industry as far as being home every day, not going too far.
That's correct.
And another thing is, I think, but what is affecting us is supply. Supply. I mean, right now the demand for goods is very low. I'm sure you know, Walmart closed some stores. You have Macy's closing stores, and the list goes on. The layoffs are happening, and I'm sure people are reading it in the news. The economy is not doing as good as people thought it should be doing.
Right.
2014 was a dynamic year. 2015 was a so-so year for the logistical for the transportation world.
Yeah.
2016 is it's starting to be a tough year, and there's a lot of things behind that, but for us, our advantage is that we have our contracts in place.
That's
and,
great.
We're growing. We're adding more work, but I'd say it's going to be a tough year for logistics in the transportation world. Just because there's a lot of dynamics at play, driver shortages at play for the long haul trucking companies.
Yeah.
And mechanic shortages has also been reported for a lot of companies. There's not enough mechanics. There's not enough drivers. That's affecting the industry, and also the economy. There's not enough loads. Freight is down. The volumes are down largely, and that's been reported across the continental U.S. With all my other carriers that I speak to.
So what would you attribute that to?
Why is the economy down?
Yeah.
Well, you have multiple issues. You have China, whose economy is struggling, and
Right.
I think a lot of people forget that we don't make anything here anymore. We don't make anything in the United States. We warehouse.
Yeah.
We don't create. We don't manufacture anything. We assemble. We warehouse things, but we don't make. So China's struggling. Their economy has multiple issues. As you can see, their stock market crashed a couple of times. The government is trying to push up the market. They're struggling in China. China's a big shareholder, in our economy. I mean, they supply a lot of the goods that we processed and unprocessed goods that come through the country. So that plays a role. And you have that at play. And in general, Europe is still struggling. Europe as a whole produces a lot in terms of everything is still struggling. And also, I think the American consumer is not confident in the economy. People don't want to spend. I mean, I'm sure you see it. People are not. They're very frugal with their money.
Right.
They're not. So people are not. I don't think people are confident in the economy, and I think that's the other issue. I think there was a lot of anticipation, and I think that's why 2014 was a dynamic year because people had anticipation that we're going to buy goods and it's going to be sold, and a lot of warehouses got stuck with the goods and they didn't buy as much in 2015, and people are still not buying. I mean, companies are not buying as much as they used to.
Right.
We have customers that have, for example, we have customers that have, we have contracts with customers for certain volumes on a weekly basis. And I'll be honest with you, from the beginning of the year till now, I'd say 99% of our customers have not reached their volumes that they have a contract. We're supposed to deliver 10 containers a week to them. We have customers that are only getting 3 or 4 containers a week.
Yeah. Is there are there any sectors that you're seeing more affected than others?
No, I think it's across the board.
Okay.
Whether it's food related, manufacturing related, any industry related. I mean, I think it's across the board. I'm not seeing one industry or one segment of the industry doing better than others. Again, we supply, we do the trucking portion for companies that are from Fortune 500 to little mom and pop shops. And I see it across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not affecting a certain industry or a certain size of a company, or you just see it because we have customers that are supposed to, with their contracts and everything, you see how people react and their orders. I mean, we'll ask the freight forwarding agents, what's happening with so and so. Where's his containers that are supposed to be coming in? And they'll be like, well, they didn't put in any orders yet. And a lot of, I mean, I know Freightliner, Volvo, the manufacturing companies that make trucks have terminated a lot of employees due to the fact a lot of trucking companies have not put orders in for trucks as well, which shows that, people are going to hold on to their trucks a little bit longer than buying updated, versions of new trucks because the freight volumes are not there.
Right.
So it's across the board. It's not one industry or one segment of the industry, of an industry is affected. I think it's across the board.
But as you told me previously in the interview, it does sound like you do have a competitive advantage and some strategies in place to help you in these times.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I do predominantly sales, and for me, it's been my strategy is there hasn't. I believe in diversification, and for me, it's always adding more customers. So I heavily focus on adding more and more customers. I think that's the problem that a lot of trucking companies they get into. They become so relaxed with one or two customers. I think they forget the sense of growing.
Right.
Well, I'm happy to be this size, and I'll be honest with you. In logistics, if you stop growing or stop being having that competitive edge to get more and protect your customers, obviously, somebody else will come in and get them.
Yeah.
And get that account. And a lot of people forget that, and it's about growing with your customers and adding more customers. And that's, I'll be honest with you, I can't say that any customer of ours have seen that tremendous growth. But for us to keep growing as a company, we've had to add a lot more customers.
Yeah.
And that's the way we've always done business. But I mean, a lot of companies rely on one or two or three customers to carry them all the way. And I think that's where the problems, start, when you're so, reliant on one or two or three customers, and people forget that, you need to go get more customers to keep growing, to keep, because you never know. I mean, a customer could have a bad year, and that's going to affect you a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And no customer, and my advice to any trucking company, no customer should make up more than 25% of your growth, of your sales, of your loads. And I think a lot of people fall in that trap.
I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, I've seen companies that are at 200-300 trucks and they have like 3 major customers, and they lose a customer and they've lost a third or a half of their fleet. And that's very bad business. I think maneuvering or strategizing to do that.
And we'll see you next time on Logical Logistics.
Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download us and review us on iTunes. Visit www.beslogistics.net for more logistics, transportation, and warehousing resources. Thanks for watching.